Hi, welcome to Living as Latinas. I'm Jaquira and I have my co-host Aury here with me.
Hello.
And we also have a special guest with us today, Natalie.
Hello.
On this episode, we will be discussing how one goes about balancing motherhood, career, and life in general. Wearing all these different hats can be very overwhelming, but we can do it. We're women. We're strong. We have this, right? Today, our guest, Natalie Garcia, is going to be discussing her experiences and expertise in the subject. So let me tell you a little bit more about Natalie before we go in. So Natalie is a working mom of 3, a life coach, a nurse, and a military mom. She balances so many different roles every single day. And she's so inspiring. I've been following her for a few years now. She has a Bestyear Ever project that she started to help empower women and put their life and wellness first and their family. I really admire the work that she's been doing, and I just wanted to bring her on so she could bring, some light and be able to kind of go over all of the different wonderful things that she's been able to do while empowering women.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for inviting me here today. And I'm super pumped to kind of just pour into the moms who are listening today or when they listen to the podcast.
Right.
Well, welcome, Natalie. You want to tell us a little bit about how you got started, like what was going on, what got you to start this project?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Jaquira mentioned, I started my profession as a nurse, working full time, and I was happy there. I had one child. I felt comfortable. I had a Monday through Friday job. It was great. And then my second child came into my life, and I thought I knew motherhood, and I was ready for it, and it was going to be even easier than the first one. And I was so wrong. Each of my children that have come into my life has brought different challenges, different obstacles I had to overcome. And I had to kind of relearn how to do things in my home and work and relationship. And each time it would get harder and harder and harder. And so I had to learn how to pivot. And in 2014, I was forced to pivot because I knew at that time I didn't want to work full time anymore. I wanted to get to my kids. And the reason for that was because I was dealing with anxiety and depression. I didn't know that's what it was called at the time because I was like in denial. I was like, I am super healthy. Why would I have depression? I'm everything I need. But looking back, that's what I was going through. And I was super unhappy in my marriage. I was feeling overwhelmed, and I was kind of blaming all of it on my spouse, feeling resentful towards him, not being able to communicate that I was tired, that I was just burnt out. And I needed support on a different level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level. I didn't know how to communicate that. So my husband kind of put me in place, I guess you can say it, not in the most positive way, but it was what I needed to get whipped in the butt with. One night coming home from work, I was washing the dishes, but I was doing it in a very throwing things around because when you can't communicate as a woman, you show it with your body and your
emotions,
your emotions. And so I was throwing things around, kind of like, I am so mad, but I don't know how to communicate this. And so he came home after work. Of course, he comes home to this every single day because that's how I was. Always moody, always upset, always complaining about something. And he says, I hate coming home to you. Every time I come home to you, you're always miserable. You're always yelling at the kids. And at the time, I felt like my blood boiling, and I was like, how dare he say that to me? But I didn't respond. And at that point, I decided, let me just internalize what he's saying. I don't want to have another fight. And I just sat on that comment because I felt it deep in my core, because I was like, man, I feel like he is so right. He's bringing to light what he's constantly seeing every day, and I haven't done anything about it. I'm just complaining, and I'm not changing my circumstances. And rather than say, well, it's your fault, I decided that, well, you know what? I need to do something for me. I need to take care of me now. I'm done with giving everybody else everything of myself in my job and in my relationship, everything. And that's when, in 2014, like things started to kind of click and move and pivot even before I even knew it. And that was the catalyst for like just things to get in motion. I started to take care of myself for a year. Then my husband started to watch me taking care of me. I didn't bother in trying to change my husband. Rather, I focused on my heart and me and what I needed. And after a year of really working hard on myself, my husband started to join me in taking care of himself as well. And then, things just started to blow up from there, 2015, 16, 17. I really started to delve deeper into coaching because it changed my life, and I wanted to then pay it forward to other moms. And so my health and wellness coaching started. And then in 2019, I got certified as a life coach to dig even deeper with women, because I felt like there was something else holding a lot of women back, like myself. It wasn't just health. It was a deeper belief system, mindset that was holding them back. So that's where our Bestyear Ever was born. And now it's just grown. It's grown to just incredible trainings and courses and masterminds that, I never imagined it would become, but because I've seen the greatest need for moms to really sit in their struggle and in their pain, and understanding and digging deeper as to why they feel that way. Sometimes it's not just the dishes. Sometimes it's not just all the things we have to do. Sometimes it's deeper than that. And so I went through that journey, and I kind of walked them through the same thing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's an amazing story. And hearing you talk, one thing that I was thinking the whole time is how unfair. And what I was thinking specifically is when you said, when I had my first child, it was easy, and then I was expecting the second one to be easier. And it is unfair because we think that, because everybody says that, and it's not even true. I don't even understand, like, why do people say that? And I have said that before, okay? So guilty.
We're all guilty.
But it's not true. It's not true. It's because after you're in it, it seems easy because whatever, you're doing it. But it's not because it is easy. It's because you have found a way to make it work. That doesn't mean that it's easy.
Right. You have to adapt and then change things a little bit, and you don't realize it, but you're doing more work.
Right. Exactly.
You're putting in more time, and you're sacrificing other things, in order to make it work.
Or everything.
Yeah.
Sacrificing everything.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Every season brings a different challenge and a different obstacle. Each of my children brought different obstacles. And then I was like, oh, shoot, now I need to work on this aspect of me, and I learned real quick in 2014. I was like, I can no longer point fingers. I can no longer blame my parents for my upbringing and for teaching me things that I shouldn't have been taught, or bad example. I can't point fingers at them anymore. I can't point fingers at my spouse. I can't point fingers at my kids. I had to take ownership for myself and how I was responding. The constant yelling is real in a Latina home. That's what you I didn't want that for my kids. And that was a real challenge, because I grew up with a mom who was always slaving in the kitchen, always slaving and cleaning up by herself, because my dad worked 2 to 3 jobs. He was an immigrant. And so I saw the woman as a full-time caregiver, everything. And I thought that was how I had to do it too. But then I hit a wall, and I was like, why am I hitting a wall? And I think that we have this high expectation because that's what we saw our moms and our grandmothers do. Great. that worked for them. But we are in a totally different century, with different expectations, with more technology, more distractions, more priorities thrown at us. And so what worked before 20 years ago is not going to work now, you know? And so as moms, we can't be expected to do the same thing as our parents did. And so what works for her, great. But, you know, obviously that comes with trauma too. You know, we have gone through trauma, and now we have to unlearn those things. And now hopefully we don't carry that from generation to generation. And so it is about breaking those generational curses. And it's by relearning new habits and routines, and doing it differently. You know, it's okay. It's okay if your mom is like, well, don't do it this way. This is what works for me. Great. It's not working. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All that advice that you get when you're a new mom or something, or when you have a new baby, you know, like, you know, you need to do this way, and you need to do this way. And it's like, oh, if you don't do it that way, then it's not going to be good for you. And then this is going to happen. And it's like, you got to figure those things out for yourself. You know, sometimes it's helpful to have some of that advice, because it is helpful. You know, they've gone through experiences, and we can't take away from that experience. But at the same time, it sets us up to, like, either we do it their way or we're a failure. And it shouldn't be that way, right? We shouldn't measure ourselves that way, because everybody's individual and unique and all that kind of stuff. So.
That hits a point, because I've had moms that I've worked with who had relationships like that with their moms. And the reason why they feel so unstuck now as a mother is because they're not living up to the expectation of their mothers. And so they are in this never-ending cycle, negative cycle of, I'm not enough. I'm doing it wrong. I'm working extra hours, but I'm still not enough. I'm still not making enough money. And it's just this constant like expectation, and that leads to failure. You know, it will lead to failure. It will lead to burnout. And what I've seen is many divorce, you know, ended relationships because of this expectation of women, you know?
Yeah. And I think that we talked about this, I think it was last week, the stereotypes. Me and Aury were talking on our podcast last week. So like the stereotypes that we have to live up to as Latinos, and how they're not real. These are like these fake images of what people perceive. And sometimes they come from outside of our own culture, right? And somehow we feel like we need to fit those molds in order to feel good about ourselves.
Yep.
You know?
Yep, exactly.
And the whole idea about, you know, if you take care of yourself, you're selfish. And if you're going to do that for yourself, that means that you're taking away from the other people. And that is something, you know, when you say it, it sounds, oh yeah, I don't believe that. It's really deep in your everything. Like, if I don't think your body and your mind puts those words to describe it, but that's exactly what it is. We feel bad because of that belief. Because if you're paying attention to yourself, if you're taking 10 minutes for yourself, well, that means that those 10 minutes you're not giving to your kids or your husband or your friends or whoever it is.
Yeah. Well, and that ties back to the myth of balance. I did a live last week on the myth of balance, a couple days last week on my social media platform, Facebook. And it was specific to that myth that in order for us to have a balanced life, we have to give our time equally to the different areas of a life. But if you think about it, like, that's nearly impossible. You can't work 8 hours and then expect to give 8 hours to your children and your spouse. Right? That's impossible. We all have 24 hours. We have to work and things, you know. So the idea of balance is a myth. What we need to incorporate into our life is harmony and rhythm. And so what harmony means is that at each stage of your life, there's this rhythm and that has to be constantly ebb and flowing, that you are okay with. You know, I'm only giving an hour to my kids, but I'm fully present in that hour. And that's my way of harmony, because it feels right to me in this season that I'm in. So each person has to understand, what is those values and beliefs, and, define it. You have to define it. And then you have to align your daily actions with that value. So if I feel okay and I feel good for an hour with my kids, that's enough for me. And, and the kids, man, 10 minutes is enough for them. But some moms feel like even like an hour is still not enough. But let's say I wanted to give an hour to them. As long as I'm giving a fully present hour to them, with my phone off and TV off or whatever they want to do, that's enough. And if a mom can only do 30 minutes, that's enough. And if there's a stay-at-home mom who dedicates all her day to their kids, that's her decision. And that's what she feels good with. And that's because she decided she wanted to do that. And she's aligning her daily life with that. Right. And just because she's doing that doesn't mean you're less than a mother because you're working full time. And I think that's where that myth of balance comes into play. And we're constantly fighting against it all the time. Even when we are like mastered our mindset and our motivation and everything in our body, there's this constant messaging coming to us every single day. So we have to constantly be pushing it off.
And I think that part of it is because even though you have a clear set of, okay, this is how I'm gonna do it. This is my rhythm and my routine or whatever. You're gonna find 100 million people telling you how that's wrong and why it's wrong. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a constant fight that you have to have with your family members, your friends, social media, people pretending that things are so, cool and beautiful, and everybody looks at the camera when there's a picture, and then I see my 3 kids, they're all doing their own thing, and I'm just smiling, and then I look at the picture, and I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And so I think that those constant fights and social media makes you feel inadequate in a way, because you're looking at that, and you're like, that's not how it looks in my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation we can have on just the exposure. What are we exposing ourselves to, right? And what do we have triggers with? Do we have certain triggers with social media? Does that impact us mentally? We have to be aware of those things, because if it does impact us, then we probably should reduce that time to maybe 5-10 minutes. If you're not impacted by it, then totally. Like, I work on social, so I had to learn the first couple years to grow thick skin, and I had to ground myself in my beliefs more so than anything else, because I was going to be attacked for the way I did things. And I'm still constantly attacked, but because I spent so much time in developing myself as a person, as a woman, as a daughter of God, right? Like, I had to understand my value and my divine nature and my own talents and gifts. I had to ground myself. And so I don't think enough of us spend time every day, every morning, telling herself, what your value is, and that I'm designing my day the way I want it, not how anybody else is. And this is why, because I have these certain goals. If we don't have goals, and if we don't have intentions every day, then yes, we're going to be kind of pushed along like the waves, and anything that comes along is going to veer us off our focus. That's why you have to anchor yourself. You have to drop that anchor into the water. So anything comes in, you're like, oh, I got this. I don't have to worry about what they're saying about me, because I know my purpose. I know what I'm doing every single day, and I'm going to do it my way. And it works because I've done it, and I do it with confidence. So I think that's where, if there's women like that are stuck right there, in that comparison, or just struggling to feel like they're not enough, you really have to work on yourself. Again, it's not pointing fingers. You have to work with yourself, and ask yourself those questions, like, why is that triggering me? Is there something in my childhood that taught me that? Or, there has to be some reason why it's triggering. And so sometimes I've seen a lot of women lately in the last year, and I think it's been a perfect year for this, taking a fast from social media, just to kind of ground themselves again, because they have been enveloped in the negative environment so much that it's impacted their ability to stay positive every day and stay focused on their goals, like they just totally lost and sad all the time and anxious, it's because of that, you know. So it does take work. It takes intention every day to overcome that.
I really like how you mentioned about grounding yourself. I think that that's so important for us to be able to learn kind of like how to do those things for ourselves. And also like if we're doing these things successfully and there's people around us, other people are going to follow suit, right? So it's just, you know, being able to like show other people like this is how I do this. This is how what's working for me, you know. And maybe it's not going to work for you, but you know, try it. Like it could. Change it a little bit, see what's worked for you, and kind of empower them to be able to do those things.
Agreed. Yeah, totally agree.
And Natalie, in the work that you have been doing with women in general, what is one thing that you notice is the most difficult, like the thing that most people are stuck in?
Perfectionism. If it's not done right, they don't want to do it, or they quit.
Yeah,
it's perfectionism. It has to be done a certain way, and if I don't see that, if I'm not able to show up exactly how I put on paper, then I'm failing, and therefore I should stop what I'm doing. That is the biggest barrier, and I used to place that burden on myself. I was like, oh gosh, maybe it's me as the trainer, as a coach. Maybe I'm not doing enough. You see how that reversed on me? You know, that same attitude is contagious. And so I had to learn, first off, to let go of perfectionism. And again, it's the expectation. And what I ended up doing was surrounding myself with leaders that were taking action even before they had everything put together perfectly. That makes sense. Yeah. So you know, and I think that's what holds a lot of women back. Like this morning I had my mastermind, and one of my clients, you know, she just kept going back. Like we're talking about goals, and we're setting up her schedule for the day. And she kept saying, but what if this, but what if this? And I'm like, stop saying what ifs. We're constantly focused on, well, what if that doesn't work out? Well, what if my spouse says this? Or what if, you know, in a year's time, I'm like, whoa. A year's time. A year's time. We have no idea what's going to come tomorrow. Focus now.
Yeah.
You know, and this, oh my gosh, I love this mom. She was saying like, well, you know, the other day I woke up early because I help women master their mornings and their evenings so they can get more done. And she's like, well, I woke up early, but you know, I got my workout in, but it was like half my workout. Like I didn't even feel like it. I was so exhausted, And she was like, yeah, I just, you know, did I fail? And, you know, I said, absolutely not. You won. You woke up at 4. How many people woke up at 4 today? I can tell you maybe less than 30% of the people woke up at 4 a.m. You know,
not me.
You know? And so I was like, you won your morning. Just the fact that you got up and did not press that snooze button. I don't care how crappy your workout was. You showed up. Showing up is more than half the battle. And I think that too often we are beating ourselves up as women because we didn't do it perfectly. And and for me, the greatest lesson I learned was from the military. Actually, was, you know, 90% of your job is going to be showing up. And you know, obviously now I've done deeper than that. That's still not enough. You have to show up and also be present and do the work. But that first step really got me moving, showing up for myself and doing what I need to do. And then I started to add other skills to that. But I think the first step that women need, especially perfectionists, which I think most of us are, we either have OCD, some type of perfectionism, and all that, again, derives from our childhood, traumas that we've dealt with our parents. Everything has to be done a certain way. If we are able to just combat that by just like, I showed up, and just remind yourself, I showed up. And then you add other skills and habits to that, you're going to be on fire. So if you're struggling with that, you know, that inner demon of you telling you constantly that, you know, I have to do more, or this is not enough, then I would challenge you, first off, to write down in your journal or your planner saying, the fact that I showed up today is a win. So especially when you're challenging yourself with certain goals, like you're not going to get it 100%. You may have only done 50. You got 50 in. Now you got only 50 left to go,
That's awesome. That's really
I
good.
love that.
Right?
Yeah,
Such good
especially
advice.
because, I'm not sure where we get that from, but we like to think that we manifest things like magic. And in life, everything is a process. So you can't expect you to go from 0 to 100 in a day. So just showing up, like you were saying, that is step one. So you did that. It doesn't matter what you did after that. Then tomorrow we can work on what you're going to do after you show up.
Yes. Baby steps.
Yeah. Celebrating the small victories, right? That's what.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
That's so cool. Thinking about like how crazy I would say life has been in the last year. How do you get into a routine for you? Like, how do you make that happen for yourself?
This year was hard for everybody, even for me. I had to, again, when it's either kids or life environments and the world changing, you have to reevaluate the way you were doing things. So I had to take a pause, from June to August of last year, because I was burnt out, with the remote learning full time, having no idea what I was doing. And then trying to run a business, and then also working my nursing job, and then, trying to manage the house. So everything was just in shambles. And so what I always say when you're starting a new routine, right, you have to first evaluate where you are. If you have to find out where your pain points are. Mm-hmm. And for me, I got out of my routine of waking up early, right? This is something I've preached for like the last 3 years. You have to own up your mornings, because that's where you're going to get most of your work done. And I stopped doing that because I burnt out and I was stuck. So what I ended up having to do again is I had to, and I'm sure you guys have heard this before, I had to go back to my why. Like, why am I doing this again? Why am I doing all this work? And, because routines mean nothing if you don't have a reason for them. Like, why would I clean my house? Why would I, even cook for my children? Like, you have to have a purpose behind it. And there's that, and for you to say, well, just because, I have to, is not enough, because that's not going to motivate you when you're tired. So I had to figure out, okay, why do I need my morning routines again? And so I started to go back to, when my life was changed after my third child, and I started to wake up early again. My productivity increases when I wake up earlier than my family. So I had to start again by making sure that my evenings were set up so that I can go to bed early and then wake up earlier. And by doing that, I was able to start slowly getting up earlier again. A few years back ago, I decided that 4 to 5 a.m. was my golden hour. Like, if I can get up at that time, I will be on fire during my day. But I couldn't get up beyond 7 a.m. Like, I hit a wall because my kids didn't have to get on remote until like 9 or something crazy. I was like, oh, what's the point of waking up that early? I don't need to be anywhere. That's the other issue with quarantine. Mm-hmm. I don't have to drive anywhere, right? So what's the point? I don't need to get dressed. So I had to find a reason. I was like, why am I going to wake up at 4 a.m. in my house, nowhere to go? And so that's where you have to start, is you have to find out your why before you create a routine. And then you have to write out your goals. Like, what am I going to accomplish during that time frame? Because an extra 3 hours, what am I going to do with that? I don't want to, waste it. And because then I won't be able to keep going with it. I won't be able to stay consistent. So I had to develop like a schedule for myself those first 3 hours of my day, with the most important items of my schedule that I found myself procrastinating constantly on during the day. And so I decided, you know what, let me put it at this time frame, 4 a.m. to 7, so that I already won my day. Like everything else can fail, but I'll be like, shoot, I got what I need to get done at 4 a.m. you know? And that helped me feel so much better about myself because again, I don't know where families are. Some people are half remote, some are full-time. I don't know where everybody's at, but the day is so unpredictable now. And I think that's where the depression and anxiety has come in for a lot of moms because they have no control. And to have no control is like, for an OCD person or perfectionist, like that is like creating a storm in your life. And so what I ended up having to do was like, let me figure out what I really need. And my goals, I have big financial goals. So I was like, okay, if I have a financial goal, what is the number one action I need to take in order to make that financial goal come to place? And I was like, well, I need to reach out to more people. I was like, okay, well, let me reach out to people at 5 a.m, 5 to 7. And I promise you, nobody's messaging anybody at that time but me. But the thing is that people wake up and that I'm the first person they see on their on their invoice or in their emails. So that's what I ended up figuring out. I was like, what is the action that I need to take that is the most important of my day? And that was it. So, but before I did that, I always take care of me first spiritually. So I feed myself for an hour spiritually. I journal, I read, I pray. That's always number one on my list. And then I do what my business, my work, my passions, and then I go into serving my family. So again, that's where this idea of like, if you are renewing your energy, which for me, even though I'm tired and during that time, I'm renewing my energy. And if I renew my energy, not only is my cup full, it's overflowing. And I can now just give with so much throughout my day. And now I'm actually more present in my trainings throughout my day because I know it's like, oh, I took care of me today. I don't need to stress. But the most of the time we're on meetings and we're stressed out because like, oh my gosh, I have this to do. I have to do this I have so much of my own things I haven't gotten done. Imagine the relief. You're like, I did the laundry already. I did this, like, which I sometimes do that for 15 minutes too, is like housework. So there's so much you can get ahead when you have that routine in the morning. So that's why I train moms to do that, especially for people that are not morning people, or just women that are trying to get more organized, increase their productivity, is I train them how to master their evenings and mornings so that they can get the bulk of their work done during those times. So that's why my promise, my guarantee is always, I will help you increase your productivity by 30%, because I know, and I've tested it over and over and over again, that during those windows of time during your morning and evening, you get more done than the middle of the day. And I mean, some people work a little bit different. Some people's, energy levels go up at certain times of the day. But again, because we're we're managing our kids, and it's unpredictable. That's why I find it's much easier to have that schedule right now.
Yeah. Something you said that I thought it was brilliant is to find out, like, why are you doing it? Because there's no way for you to not want to do it after that, because you already know, you already made a decision. So it's easier for the down days to pick up and go.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, anything in life, you have to have a reason behind it. And so when there's moms that are struggling to kind of stay motivated, I always go back to, so why did you want to start this again? Why did you join this mastermind? Because a lot of people get discouraged. It's hard work, changing your life. It's hard work, improving your marriage and taking ownership of your schedule. That's work. It takes intention. So we have to constantly go into the why. And I make them write it everywhere. And you put in your planner every single morning. So there's different habits that I teach, because you have to be constantly reminding yourself, because days are going to be hard. There's going to be seasons that are going to be hard. And there's going to be unexpected things that come into our lives, deaths. There's going to be crazy thing in the world, catastrophe. There's certain things that they're going to be like, oh shoot, it's going to shake you to your core. and you're going to lose motivation if you're not grounded to a why. So for me, I've been grounded to that why for 6 years. So that's why I've continuously shown up, even when it was hard, even when I've had losses, even when, I dealt with my darkest depression. The reason why I kept going was because of my why. So, and it has to be something that's not just surface level. You have to go deep. I always try to go at least 7 layers deep. And there's a video on that somewhere in YouTube. It's like
7 layers deep.
Yeah, 7 layers deep of finding your why or something like that. I forgot who the speaker was, but that's what really got me to understand, it's not for the money. Why do I want more money? Or okay, great, it's gonna help your kids and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, why would you want to help your kids? So you keep asking yourself the why until you get to the deep core reason. And that why makes me cry every time. So you want a why that's so emotionally tied to your heart, to your mind, that when you're losing momentum and motivation, you think about it and it just makes you like your heart pump and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stop. I have to keep going. That's how deep my why is. It makes me cry every time I share it. So that's what I would encourage anybody who's trying to change their routines, trying to start new habits. You have to know why, what's the purpose. And I don't like hearing women say, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to get on a health routine because I want to lose 10 pounds. Like, who cares about 10 pounds? Like, tell me the reason why you want to lose those 10 pounds, And so and people hate that when I do this activity. They hate it because makes it uncomfortable for them, because now they have to dig deeper why that really matters to them.
Right.
Most people don't want to share that.
Yeah, that's so deep. Yeah, something we all need to do, right? As moms and as people, as human beings, we just kind of have to figure out like what is our motivation behind the things that we do each day, or else it's not going to be fulfilling for us. We're just going to be going through the motions.
Absolutely. Same thing with house cleaning. Like I was like, why am I cleaning my house? Well, now I call it I'm blessing my home, because I want my children to come into a home that's blessed and peaceful, and is safe from the world. So having a clean home for me, it's not just to have a clean home anymore. It's really to have a space where my kids can nourish their bodies and their mind. And so a clean space, that's what that means to me. So you have to find something like that. You have to word it differently. Rather than say, oh, I have to clean my house, or I have all this stuff to do. Well, oh my gosh, I have an opportunity to bless my house today.
Yeah.
The wording means everything. Wording and vocabulary in your everything you say really matters.
Well, words have power, and we forget that too often.
Yes.
And it's thinking about it that way, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to live with purpose. It's beautiful to feel like you're here for something and not just, oh, I was just born one day. No, you're here to do something. And when you find that purpose, everything changes, because everything you do, you're doing it with excitement, because you know that it's going to result in something, not just going through the motions, like Jakira says,
And you can definitely see that in people as well. Like once you find your spark, right, you can look at a person and you can see like, oh, well, they're just going through the motions, or they know why they're here,
Right.
It changes people.
It does. And it attracts you. Like it's attractive. People wonder like what's attractive, what makes a woman or man beautiful or handsome. It's that countenance, it's that spirit that they carry. It's not the outward appearance, because that's like for a moment it's nice, but it's that spirit that people carry with them that really makes an impact on people's lives. So you can't fool people with that.
No,
you can't fool people. So and that's why I'm so careful with who I hang out with, who's in my circle, because I can feel it and it's contagious, and I never want to be impacted by a negative aura, energy, spirit. And so I'm very, very precise on who I let into my circle, because it really does make a difference. So if anybody's in that boat where they're like feeling stuck, like do an evaluation who's around you.
Right.
Yeah.
It
Right.
makes a difference. Yes. Yeah.
That is a really important point. We actually have talked about that a few times in our podcast because it seems like people don't realize how important that is. You know, like when you're having a really bad day, you want the people around you to remind you who you are and your why, right? And not people around you telling you, yeah, that's true. Well, okay.
It's like you're not being helpful.
This is not what we talked about that you would do.
Yeah, right.
But so I know that you've been working with so many women for a long time. You also have your own experience with finding out where you belong and how you want to do things, your purpose and all of that. If you could summarize, this is difficult, I know, but if you could summarize and you can tell us, like, this is the key points that I have found to not even do anything or change anything, just to start or to recognize that you need change, that something is not working, what would you say?
Oh, that's a hard question.
I know I said it was going to be difficult.
So you're saying like a statement that helps women to recognize they need change? Or
because I'm thinking, you know, many people can be listening to us discussing all of these things and they could just be like, well, yeah, I'm having difficulties, but I don't think I need to make a change. You know what I mean? Like I'm managing things. What can we tell people to help them make that decision? And like, okay, you don't just want to manage. Can you be happy doing what you're doing, right?
oof, so I have this response all the time where I'm okay. So I don't have a statement for that, because the thing is that most people, in order for you to change, you have to recognize that you need change and you need to want the change. I've learned over the years that I can't force anybody to change unless they desire it for themselves. So I guess that's my response is, unless you are willing and wanting to change, I cannot help you. And nobody can. You have to want that for yourself. No one else.
So it has to come from within.
It has to come from within. And you have to find out why. It goes back to the why. But, you know, when I get that response, and I've heard many women say the same thing for their spouses, how can I help my husband change? You can't. You can't change him. He needs to want to change himself. Does he know he needs change? Probably not.
I know, right? He's probably fine the way he is.
Yeah, he's happy. He's satisfied, right? But are you? No. So it's, you know, again, sometimes it takes seeing someone else or you getting angry with someone else to realize, because they're a reflection. They're just a mirror to you. So if you are being triggered by someone or something, that is a mirror that you have to go within yourself to change something within you. So if your spouse is triggering you and you feel unsatisfied in your relationship, or you feel unsatisfied in your career or your job, that is a mirror. That is simply a voice telling you something's not right. And now you have to get uncomfortable enough. It has to be painful enough for you to want to change. The reason why most people stay in that stage of like, well, I'm comfortable, is because they haven't dealt with enough pain yet. So, you know, the only reason people change is because of a painful situation, or they're inspired. It was either through inspiration or through pain. So again, I can't force anybody, you know, and it took me a while to learn that. It was a hard one to learn. But I think it's a great lesson because it lets us go. You know, we can let go of like, oh, this is not my problem. You know, it's not saying that you don't want to help people, but you can't. You know, the only people that work with me is because they want to work with me, because they have a desire to change. They know they need to start changing things. Otherwise, then I can't. They're not a good candidate. I can't work with them because they're not willing to do the work for themselves.
You can help them, but you can't make them.
I don't know if I can help them. I can't.
If they're ready, you can. But you can't
ready.
make them be ready.
Right, exactly. So again, you can't force anybody. Somebody has to be willing and wanting to change for themselves in order to change.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited that you got to be with us and spend some time with us. We look forward to collaborating with you in the future again. Also, we will put all of your information and links when we post this, so people will be able to kind of search for you and find out what's the project that you're working on and everything. So
yeah, awesome.
Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you guys, and awesome job, and I appreciate you guys doing this. I know you are empowering so many women with your resources that you're also creating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for joining us. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Living as Latinas. We are on Instagram as Living as Latinas. We also have an email, livingaslatinas@gmail.com. You can email us any topics that you would like us to discuss. Remember to be kind to everybody and be kind to yourself. Thank you.
Bye.